welcome to the show. We're gonna do another time jump, time travel extravaganza. We're back in I, as Scott Putski. We've moved the world a bit forward here. We're in December of '94. Um, Ivan Putski manages the young Chris Kanyon, a very talented and dedicated worker. And yeah, we're gonna get to it. We're gonna um, kind of frame up the game world here. I actually just got my very first broadcasting deal for gaining above 38 popularity here in the Mid-Atlantic, and also if we are looking to the future, we're gonna have all of our tag team stuff going on. We're gonna be working tri-state most likely. I know that's stepping in on WWE's territory, which is a little bit harder than stepping in on WCW's territory, clearly. But, you know, I think at this point, it's probably the best move for us. Yeah, so that is the plan, is to go ahead and try and infiltrate New York tri-state region in order to get my Eastern Seaboard upgrade over here. So that's, I wouldn't say our first TV. Probably our first few episodes of TV are going to be in Mid-Atlantic still, in the Richmond Arena, and, it's a hotbed. We're going to have some hot crowds, and we'll be able to make some money that way, get everything set up. In case you missed the first one, I'll just do a quick rundown. Mick Foley's the current two-time, count 'em, two-time, and the first ever hardcore champion. Chris Candido just took the belt off of Jushin Thunder Liger. I lost Thunder Liger. Um, it it was kind of my fault. He had been working for me for a while, as well as a few other companies, and I kind of made the move to make him exclusive. Some other companies had a lot more money that wanted him a lot more uh, exclusive just to them. So he's no longer in the company, which is rough. He used to have some of the best matches. He was hands down probably one of the best, if not the best worker um, in our company. So it is rough. It is rough. Uh, we got our two-time current champions, Jean and Sean, JPL and Waltman. Um, they are three defenses in, 100 days into the reign. Uh, and we have our X Factor champion, the most prestigious belt in the company, and the main belt on the Inspire brand, um, Steve Austin, holding it for over a year now, 440 days, 23 successful defenses, and I think we're going to see him drop it very shortly. I did want his second reign to be a little bit shorter than his first. I actually had planned on him dropping it at 16. I planned on him dropping it at 18. There were a few different moments where I was planning on having him drop that belt. But nonetheless, here we are. So yeah, we've got that going for us. I decided to start it not, with a show already booked. I know that's usually how I like to start it, jump right into the action, but we are at the very end of December, so I thought it might be fun to see all of the match of the year and superstar of the year, most improved company of the year, all that stuff for 94 going into 95. So yeah, I'm going to start moving the days forward, and we'll get this Chris Kanyon Dark Side going as well. Yeah, let's see.
He was amazing. Sport in many ways, with moves like I loved working with that motherfucker.
Yeah,
the innovative assistant, living up to his
excellent
He called
technician.
himself the innovator of offense.
You're gonna try to end this? Oh my goodness!
How about that? A cradle neck breaker!
Oh, wind up getting stuck. Look at this! Oh my goodness!
In the 1990s, wrestler Chris Kanyon rose from obscurity to become one of the most innovative and versatile performers of the era, pioneering a style that would set the stage for decades to come.
I would say he's one of the most underappreciated wrestlers of all time.
Chris is one of those guys who deserves so much more respect, so much more notoriety, and so much more love for everything he did for wrestling.
Despite success and the adulation of his peers,
welcome.
Kanyon lived with a deep secret, which he believed, if revealed, would end his career in an instant.
I had no idea he was gay. Here's a guy twice my size that's just always talking about fuck the queers. I ain't got time for that.
That to me was like the greatest kept secret. And
Bret
I'm
Hart,
one of Chris's
Wrestler of the Year.
Concealing the truth became an obsession, and his increasingly erratic behavior deeply concerned and terrified those closest to him.
Then he started doing a bunch of crazy shit. The house would be destroyed, or my car would be destroyed, or my
He
clothes
defeated
would be
Bret for
torn up.
Match of the Year.
Then at that point, I was like, you just tried to fucking kill me.
Just holding onto a secret, not being able to share with your closest friends and family, not being able to tell them who you really are, that must have killed him for so long.
Most Improved Company of the
Literally, it was
Year
like
for the
emotional
very
roller
first
coaster. He was
time.
manic, really just out of his mind.
That feels good, y'all.
It was a painful
We
thing
rose
watch
to
him
small size
to center
and
right
got our
line.
first
His life
television
played out the way he
deal
saw it. Because we all manifest our
that
own
year.
reality.
So that's solid. 1994 was a great year for us. Pillman is considered an independent wrestler, even though he's exclusively written to my show.
It was like you had to have a catchphrase.
You had to have a
90s, right?
catchphrase.
Who better than Kanyon?
Who better?
Who better than Kanyon?
Who better than Kanyon? Nobody!
He shows me something different.
Nobody.
Revolutionized our sport, brought in some
Kanyon.
moves that
You're
no
gonna
one's
give him
even
some wins
thought of.
today.
As far as
For
guys
sure.
I love to be in the ring with and dance, as we call it, Chris Kanyon, top 5%, because it was just fun. It's me, it's DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, master of the diamond cutter.
I think he did the independent wrestling style before anybody else.
I'm Nick Jackson. This is my brother Matt Jackson. We're the Young Bucks.
Oh,
We're
yeah,
very
I was
good
gonna
friends with Chris
check out the
Kanyon.
P500
He
a
doesn't
little
realize
bit too.
so much
We
of
can
us
do that
as
real
kids,
quick.
as teenagers. We watched Chris, the way that he took moves and the way he sold moves and the way he strung along
Close my
offense.
phone.
Another one of his innovative
There was something special
Yeah, it was
about
definitely
Chris.
smart to
Everyone
make
loved him.
a deal
And
with
he was funny, and he was
ECWA.
bright, and he was witty. I would call him
They've
a
been
king
trying
of
to
Sunnyside, New
offer
York.
everybody
Hi,
deals.
my name is Raphael Morphy. I'm a 20-year pro wrestling executive. Grew up with Chris Casares,
But we have a no
aka
stealing
Chris
agreement,
Kanyon,
so
Sunnyside, Queens, New York.
I'm safe.
I went to grammar school with Chris and high school, and as luck would have it, worked with him at WWE. Middle class, blue collar area, a lot of Catholics in our parish. He would be in the corner with some of his friends, putting on these shows. He adored wrestling.
My best
I
event was
don't
my
think he was
last
ever
event.
comfortable about his sexual orientation.
My second to last event.
That comes
right
from
here.
where he grew up,
Or, well,
his religious beliefs.
3 events
He had a
ago.
struggle at our high school. He was overheard cursing his teacher and sent him to a chaplain of our school. And he just blurted out, "I'm gay."
Got the flock.
You know, don't give in to Satan. Don't give in to temptations.
The Sinister Six.
The animosity Chris had towards this person who told him that, Chris says, "That's who I am. So why is it wrong?" I think it had a big effect on him. It really broke my heart. I was like, man, I wish I knew. I wish I knew he was going through this.
So when I first started hanging around with Kanyon, he presented himself as a guy from New York, a tough New York, Queens guy, who was very Catholic and very anti-homosexual. I am the sinister minister, Father James Mitchell. I have been known as Daryl Van Horn in Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Sure, your mother's waiting for you in the tool shed.
I was known as James Vandenberg in WCW.
Twisted body.
He showed me this tape of him doing a match in the streets. I said, you know, I could really do something with you, Kanyon. What we need to do is get you into a ring. And the only wrestling ring that I know of around here is the one that Fabulous Moolah has.
Brought in the hard way by the Fabulous One.
For over half a century, the Fabulous Moolah was one of the industry's leading power brokers, controlling nearly all aspects of
Mitchell
women's
right there.
wrestling.
He was pretty marked out that he was in the presence of a legend. Moolah normally trained women. I had told him, just keep your mouth shut. Let me do the talking. Let me see if I can bullshit her, get you in the door. She looked at him, she was very impressed. Moolah would run these tiny shows for her students. Mae Young was there, and she would get in there all the time and jump on Kanyon in them and stomp the shit out of him. She'd rip big wads of hair out of his head. Van, what's going on? This bitch is crazy. She's shooting on me. I'm like, just put up with it. You'll be okay.
By the mid-90s, Kanyon catches the attention of World Championship Wrestling and is soon realizing his dream performing regularly on national television.
I first met Chris when I went to WCW, and he used to be in a tag team called Men at Work, where they used to go around and measure things for no apparent reason. He started getting a little bit of steam because he had such a great reputation amongst the other wrestlers. He had this really super thick accent. He also had a little bit of a lisp, which used to bother him. He was always nervous to do a promo on air because he was always kind of worried about his lisp.
That's Barrios. That's Barrios.
Everyone saw the potential that he had to be top star, and that's when they started giving him a little bit more to do on the show and kind of expanding his role.
He was getting to live his dream. This was a time when he was really happy. He went to pack up and go to Memphis, I believe. I get a phone call, and I see it on the caller ID, and I'm excited. Christopher Clusarts, I picked it up. Kanyon, how are you doing? He goes, Van, I have something to tell you. Okay, what's that? I had one of those big U-Haul things, and my cousins were trying to move it. And Van, gay pornography exploded all over the street. It was like a piñata of gay porn. And I panicked, and they said, Kanyon, what the fuck is that? And I said, that's Daryl Van Horns. He pulls ribs on people. He's a sick motherfucker. He's probably gay himself. I bet it's his. So that's how he came out to me. And I said, okay, so what? And he goes, so you need to call my cousin. And he had this very elaborate script written out where I couldn't be too obvious, but I had to say, hey, can you get me in touch with Kanyon? Because I left some materials with him. And the thing was, I was the only person Kanyon told he was gay, and my job was to cover for him.
What really was a huge break for Chris was they came up with this campaign.
Our world is about to change.
The Blood Runs Cold storyline casts wrestler Ray Lloyd as Glacier, a character inspired by Mortal Kombat's Sub-Zero, while Kanyon emerges as his nemesis Mortis, with manager James Vandenberg at his side.
That's the coolest mask gimmick ever. This was a huge break.
It was a great combination with Vandenberg. Vandenballs, he used to call him. He used to torture Vandenballs, man.
He was vicious. He was vicious on it. But Vandenballs never has a career without Chris Kanyon. And he loved Vandenballs. He loved them.
Vandenball.
That was right in the chest.
We were celebrating a great victory or something. I went to turn the car on and it wouldn't start. He started screaming and yelling and cursing at me. And Kanyon, it's not a big deal. I'll call a taxi, whatever. And he just started increasing it. Anyhow, the car starts. It's an hour ride home to Atlanta. The whole time, he's throwing elbows in my face, going, you motherfucker, I fucking hate you, you fucking piece of shit. And just going, what what's wrong with you, man? And we got to the parking garage. It actually kicked my fucking passenger door open. You motherfucker! And he began to kick out every headlight, brake light, jumped up and down on the hood, totally destroyed my car. Get the fuck out of here! I hate you, I never want to see you again. If I didn't have a lisp, I would never have anything to do with you, because I can't do a promo. And then I looked at him, I let it sit for a minute, and I went, okay. That's a hell of a thing to say to the only guy who knows your secret identity.
As Chris Kanyon reaches new heights wrestling for one of the industry's top promotions, he becomes even more paranoid about his colleagues discovering his innermost secret.
If you were gay back then, you were a bad guy. You were a heel. You were the guy that you would do the sunset flip and they would pull your pants down, you'd have a thong on, you know what I mean? Like,
Back in those days, it just wasn't as accepted as it is now.
Oh my God! A man kissing another man! I can't believe it!
Absolutely, I'm sure Kanyon was worried about how that would be presented.
Wait a minute.
It wasn't going to be a positive thing. My name is Brian Cage, current AEW wrestler, big-time fan, very close friend, and also unofficial trainee of Chris Kanyon. Just because of the creative control that wrestling could have, you know, like easily could have lost him his job for sure.
He had what looked like a control center. He would spend days trolling for boyfriends. He had all these long-winded conversations with guys, and he would print everything out, alphabetize them, organize them, and he would put them in this little metal box. So you'd have the usual suspects come running in, and they'd ask what was in the box. He'd say, none of your fucking business. And he started getting really paranoid about the box to a point I started calling it Pandora's box. I said, Kanyon, why do you have this? You're worried about being outed as being gay, but this is like Nixon keeping Watergate tapes. Maybe he wanted somebody to knock it over just like his gay porn fell out of the U-Haul thing with his cousin, you know? That could have been it.
What was great about the Mortis character for Chris was that you could hide behind the mask. And little did I know that he was hiding behind the mask the whole time. Mortis really gave him that power to grow. And then a little thing happened called the NWO.
What is he doing? Is he the third man?
You can call this the New World Order of Wrestling, brother. And I will never forget Kanyon. He looked at me, he goes, our push is dead. And he was right. The NWO took over the world.
I hope it's okay, because there's nothing you can do about it. All of that gimmicky, character-based wrestling stuff went out the window. We're on reality-based wrestling, not cartoons. He started getting really frustrated about it.
You just opened Pandora's...
The stress of it started making him really lash out at me for no reason. One night, he went off on me, you motherfucker, and started choking me like this, with the thumbs on the Adam's apple, to the point that I blacked out. And I started coming to, and I was hearing, you motherfucker, and then he looked down at me, and he goes, oh, Van, fuck, what am I doing? I'm so sorry. I fucking love you. I'm fucking sorry. And he started kissing my forehead and shit. And, you know, and I was loyal to him, and I loved him, and he helped me so much. But there's no reason to be beating my ass. You know, he had to release his steam, and he couldn't act that way in front of other people.
With the Mortis storyline now over, Chris grows anxious about his future with the company, but WCW finds him a new role.
That's Mortis! Oh my... You know, we haven't seen Mortis for months!
Now, without a mask, he is reintroduced to fans as Kanyon.
Now we can see Chris. We can see, because he's a cool-looking dude. You know, he's got swag. Now he's got a different level of confidence.
Who's better than Kanyon?
Eric Bischoff had a lot of faith in Chris Kanyon. I mean, he sent him to do Ready to Rumble. That match, everything, all that's Chris Kanyon. That generation loved Ready to Rumble.
It's the best wrestling movie of all time.
But Kanyon helped teach David Arquette how to wrestle and how to take the bumps, and then he even took some of the stunts. He was a stunt double in the film itself.
He's the one that came up with the 3-level cage match.
I love that movie.
And then it was his idea to use that cage in actual WCW match.
Chris took a bump from the top of it from Mike Awesome. Big moment. It was just great to see him. Wow, he's in the mix.
He would make fun of me all the time. And he would do his DDP impersonation. He was having such a good time with it.
WCW had the money to spend on these guys. Chris probably went from making, $100 a day to making, what, 300, 400, 500 grand a year. He was spending it, but in a good way.
He loved to play Lord Bountiful and put on the best parties.
He turned his house into a beach bar nightclub. Like, literally. He brought in sand.
The women were
brought in
crawling on
sand.
I'm not kidding. Crawling on him. And he completely no-sells it. And one of the girls one night comes over to me and she goes, I think your friend might be gay. And I told him that. He got really paranoid then. So he had assigned me to make a pornographic video of him that he could show the boys as proof that he was straight. Find a whore. Here's the room. And here's my video camera. Here's the script. I'll be there about midnight. And he never showed up. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whatever. So nature took its course. Long story short, we followed his script, and the girl was wearing the Mortis mask. Okay. In the morning, we're in the hotel room, and I popped the tape in. Kanyon laughed at first, and then you could see him start getting furious. And he ran in the bathroom. Out of nowhere, he goes, you motherfucker, you used my hair conditioner. I was like, Kanyon, I don't even have fucking 3 pieces of hair on my head. And he's amping it up, and I started seeing the things that led to me getting choked. However, I had 45.
He recognizes the signs
under the pillow.
He ain't playing.
Both fists in the chest, and I flew over the bed, and I hit the ground, and I came right back up, slid across, put my hand under the pillow, picked up the gun, and I went, fuck you. You hit me again, you're fucking dead. Now shit's on. Kanyon grabs the 4 pieces of Charlie Brown hair I have on top of my head. Put down the gun! And I'm going, I've had enough of this shit! You're too fucking big, you motherfucker! What the fuck did I do to deserve this shit? And then it hit me like, okay, this shit's out of control. It's one of my best friends. So we let it diffuse.
Were you planning on shooting him if you had to?
Oh, yeah, I was. I had looked up all the statutes on, reasonable fear of life and whatnot. I mean, it wasn't something I wanted to do, but I was like, the next time this guy starts that Adam's apple business, I was prepared to shoot him.
You don't fuck with that Adam's apple
Although
business.
Chris Kanyon's paranoia continues to manifest in violent outbursts, his career is about to peak in a way he never dreamed possible.
Chris came to prominence right when the industry was having a great boom. Then, WWE bought out WCW. They really believed in him. And, Chris writes in his book, Vince pulls him aside and said, you have really adjusted well here, and we have big plans for you. And he ended up being a double champion the first 2 months or so. He was a tag champion, and he was a U.S. champion.
Who better than Kanyon and DDP and Taz? Who better? I thought he was in a great spot. I mean, I thought he was gonna shine. But, it's like anything. It's, you don't know what you don't know.
Kanyon would invite me to come up and stay with him. I'd stay with him 2, 3 weeks, sometimes a month at a time. He would spend 2 or 3 days sitting on the floor, stacking and restacking papers. I'd say, what are you doing? I'm working on my taxes. But he wasn't working on his taxes. He was just taking piles of notices from the IRS and things like that and just moving them around. Like, he would stay in bed for 6 and 7 days. After he's invited me there, I'd just be sitting in his house for days and days and days. I didn't understand depression. I would say, what the fuck do you have to be depressed about? You're on fucking WWE, you're in movies, you got money. He couldn't articulate it to me further than, you know, you don't know what it's like to be in my head. You think everybody loves me. I don't think they do.
Then he got hurt.
He got his shoulder injured, and he was worried that he was going to get fired.
You build a program and then you get hurt, it's really hard to come back from.
He took steroids for one of the few times I was ever aware of it to try to rehab his injury. And I guess he was depressed for a few days and left the needle out. And he got some sort of horrible blood infection. And he lost a bunch of weight, and he was really worried that they would let him go.
Kanyon spends the next year and a half recovering from his injuries while also struggling with his mental health. Determined to come back better than before, he's finally offered a role that he believes will get his career back on track.
He had told me he was going to be at SmackDown, and he had a role, a big one. It was a moment for him to be involved with two huge names in the industry. The Undertaker, who was very high on Chris, thought Chris had a lot of potential, and Paul Heyman, who's presenting The Undertaker with a gift.
Sent to The Undertaker in a box.
Whenever WWE came to town in Southern California, we were at the shows, no matter what. I remember Chris was hiding in like a giant, of course in pro wrestling, a giant present.
At some point, Kanyon was directed to come out of a big wooden box dressed as Boy George and singing, "Do You Really Want to Hurt Me?" And he was told to do it with a lisp.
Do you really want to make me cry?
Boy George.
Do you really want to hurt me?
Oh my God.
And we're like, oh my God, it's Kanyon! Because we were such Kanyon fans. We're just popping from our seats. We're like, holy, we didn't know he was gonna be here.
Make me cry.
This brother love when you need him.
But then he just got destroyed, right?
We might not see him ever again. And a Kanyon. Welcome back to the WWE.
It was really violent.
Oh, chair.
And I remember, like, I was smart to the business even. I remember thinking to myself, like, this is terrible. Why did they bring Kanyon out just to kill him like that?
Oh, man. He's a human being.
What was, like, a chair shot to the head or something? It was like a terrible chair shot to the head.
It's pretty obvious. He had never done anything like that. Just out of the blue, one day he comes out and is expected to sing like Boy George. Like, I mean, come on. Somebody found something out or heard something or said, let's put this guy to task. And it's a bullying WWE trick. Why else would you do that? I think that really did hurt him.
To this day, I'm not going to buy it that they wanted to humiliate him. Sorry. WWE is not going to have someone trained to come back for a year to humiliate him on national TV. That's not going to happen. It just didn't work out creatively.
And then he started being depositioned, or pushed down the card.
You know who's better than Kanyon? Yeah. I want to know. Tell me, please. Everybody! Woo! Yeah!
This happens a lot of times in the WWE. You get kind of slotted in a certain position and it's hard to dig yourself out of it. They didn't feel it was enough to keep him on, so they let him go.
Kanyon claimed to me at first that the office was punishing him for being gay. But then he told me later that was all bullshit.
A knee injury, a shoulder injury, he can't get back on track.
And he was just using it as an ace in the hole to cover his ass if he ever had to sue them. And he became what I guess you call in literature an unreliable narrator. I couldn't tell what was true and what wasn't. But you know, Kanyon in a lot of ways, towards the last few years of his life, could be his own worst enemy.
Good matches.
Devastated by his release from the WWE, Chris Kanyon finds meaning in mentoring a new generation of wrestling stars.
It was about 2005 when we got booked on a bigger show. We saw Chris Kanyon was on the list, and we couldn't believe it.
He was one of our heroes, legitimate heroes. Here we are, we're just these kids. I'm probably 19.
Yeah, and
You're
15, 16.
15, 16.
Yep.
We're like teenage voices. Hi, I'm Matt. This is my brother Nick.
All nervous.
We hit it off, you know, right off the bat. Imagine this guy that you watched on television for years. Now he's your friend, and he's, you know, calling you every day.
Solid.
He had called me up one time. He goes, "Hey, are you guys having a show? Some kind of in the area. I could come."
Superb wrestling and a
shows
decent
there."
reaction from the
I
crowd.
was like, "Holy crap! Well, we're doing a show now." He came out to a big pop, you know, the big star, and he buries the crowd. Super good heel mic work.
I'm gonna beat you, and I'm gonna leave this stupid hick town and never, ever come back. Shut up.
I didn't want to go over. I didn't want to go over at all. And he goes, "Kid, this is your promotion, your hometown. Like, you got to go over. It's gonna get the better reaction." I was like, "Okay, fine." And he goes, pick me up. I slip out the back door, and I roll him up. 1, 2, 3. Still to this day, it's one of my top 3 favorite, not only matches in wrestling, but probably one of my top 3 favorite moments in my life. And he was such a giving, selfless guy.
Maybe for this one night, you're better than Kanyon.
Chris Kanyon was the person that would honestly give you the shirt off his back.
I've been raising
He was
all
a
my
great
importances
Chris
this
was a
last
great
year.
person. My name is Luke Hawks. I'm a professional wrestler and also a dear friend of Chris Kanyon. As you can see, such a dear friend.
3,000
He's got
viewers.
Mortis tattooed
First
on my arm
show.
right here. 2005, Katrina hit. And I was in New Orleans, Louisiana, and it was the worst hurricane of all time, completely wiped out the city. Kanyon called me up, and he was the first person to call me, and he goes, "If you need a place to live, you can come live with me as long as you need to, no charge." So Chris would go through these stages where he would stay up for 3 or 4 days at a time. Keep in mind, we're in Clearwater Beach, and the headquarters for Scientology is not far away. So he said he had just got home, and he went left, and he was driving on this bridge for hours. And he was trying to get to the Scientology building, and I think he said he seen aliens, or aliens had stopped him, which never happened because he was home with us the whole time. So he starts freaking out. He's like, "I gotta break into this building. I gotta go in that building. I know the aliens are in there."
Oh no.
I told the guys, I said,
That's
we
mad
can't let
delusional.
him leave. We gotta hold him down. We're gonna have to tie him up and lock him in a room. We can't let him leave until he calms down and goes to sleep, because we knew once he went to sleep, he would wake up and he would be fine. And that's exactly what happened. He woke up, didn't even remember it happening.
5,000 per show for
Kanyon
Lawrence
eventually
Taylor.
begins treatment for bipolar
Only good at
disorder
brawling?
and finally feels empowered to open up about his sexuality.
Look at those stats.
He said, "I need to tell you something."
And I go, "Okay, what's up?"
His tone was different, and he was more serious, and I'm just like, "Is everything okay, man? I just don't know how you're gonna react to this." I'm like, "Dude, just tell me." And he finally spits it out. He's like, "Kid,
I'm gay. And I said, "Okay." And he goes, "You don't hate me?" I said, why would I hate you?" He goes, "Because I'm gay."
And just to be honest, especially at that time, that day and age, I was a little bummed out about it. I'm like, "Oh, what? My Kane's gay?" Then I start thinking about it. I go, "Wait a minute. That doesn't change anything." Like, I'm really thankful for that opportunity now too, because I really think that made me like open my eyes and become a lot more like understanding and tolerant towards a lot of things. Because it was like that quick, like within a minute, I went from like, "Oh man," to like, "Oh wait, who cares?"
We were all kind of happy for him because by this time his career wasn't where he dreamed it could be.
He had been discussing on and off being an openly gay wrestler. He wanted to really be a role model in doing it. But the issue was, how do you portray that? He came out of the closet at an independent show where he was wrestling Diamond Dallas Page.
Now one of the most controversial wrestlers, right?
The question I got for you, my brother.
You gonna pop the question? Uh-oh.
The rumor that's floating around is, are you gay?
He figured that it would be a big deal.
The rumors are true. I'm gay. I am the first ever openly gay professional athlete active in this country. You will always be my brother.
The thing was, we're now in 2006, and nobody cares.
It was kind of like too little, too late.
Orlando Jordan had been put on television, and they were going to announce him as an openly gay wrestler. And Kanyon lost his mind about that. They're taking my gimmick. They're taking my gimmick. And I would say, well, you don't have a patent or a trademark on being gay, and you didn't bring it up to them before. He wrote a letter to Stephanie McMahon saying, please let me be the spokesman. I think I can help kids that need to come out and things like that. Stephanie wrote him back this pithy little response. I'm so sorry to hear about your struggles. I didn't know about any of this, but before I can address your other issues, I have to talk to legal department or something. And he never heard back from them after that.
A few years prior, Kanyon had already sealed his fate with the WWE by attempting a series of ill-conceived stunts in hopes of getting their attention.
I was WWE's MSG promoter. You know, Chris Benoit just wins his world title with Eddie Guerrero in the ring. So, you know, I'm on the floor. So this is about a few minutes after we're off air. I look in the corner of my eye, and I see Chris jump in the ring, go to the turnbuckle. That was some odd behavior for him. It's like, you know, I had to ask myself what's going on here. Later that night, you know, the WWE was kind enough to, to invite him to the after party. He goes, oh, by the way, I just went over to Vince McMahon, put my arm around him.
Him and
said,
Candido were in a feud.
Thank you for inviting me to this party, even though you fired me.
Again,
I don't know why he did that.
Chris it was like a downward spiral.
I think his head was stuck in that, no, I'm gonna be controversial, so they'll talk about it in the sheets.
You would hear these stories about, Kanyon sitting front row at a live event screaming, give me justice, or whatever the details were. Any way you slice it, you can see this isn't good.
The industry may see him as taboo to work with. That must have been terrible for Chris.
And then, he kind of disappeared for a while after that.
One time he calls me, and we were really close at this point. I start the shower, and my phone goes off, and it's Chris, and I always pick up for Chris.
Who's my first
bawling his
guy?
eyes out. And I mean, Chris, calm down, what's going on? I've had enough. I'm gonna kill myself.
Up from 209, number
Chris,
142.
He's like, pray for me right now, kid. Pray for me right now. I'm like, my hand's shaking, and I'm like, I'm praying for this guy, and he's bawling and bawling and bawling, and like the entire bathroom's filling up with steam because like I'm on this call for 45 minutes. I'm crying. I'm 19 years old. I'm trying to convince this guy, one of my heroes, don't kill yourself. And it was heavy. And by the time we were done with the conversation, I got him to calm down. And we said a prayer, and he told me he loved me. And I got off the phone, and I'm just like standing there just going, holy crap, what was that?
In 2006, Kanyon receives an unexpected call from the Howard Stern Show, where he eventually appears as a regular, demonstrating his wit, charm, and humor.
He got out there and he talked about being gay, and he made the self-deprecating jokes that he'd always wanted to do.
If the Mets win, you gotta suck my dick.
No, all right, you know what?
Chris Canyon's a wrestler, and he feels he was kicked out of the WWE because he's gay.
To me, the Boy George thing, that was a message, I thought. That was like, if you come out of the closet, we're going to beat the shit out of you.
I see.
They told me before I went out there as Boy George, they said, sing like a faggot.
Whoa. There was an incident with him and John Cena on Howard Stern.
He says Vince is a homophobe, and Chris claims that he was fired because he is a gay man.
Here's the weird thing about Chris, and I've known Chris for a long time. Okay. He actually came out of the closet after he was fired.
Right.
He wasn't any good.
I remember when I first saw it, and I was fucking livid. It was just such a dirtbag thing to say.
And with Vince, you do have to have a certain technical bravado. You got to be able to wrestle, but at the same time, it's WWE. You got to be able to entertain the people.
Right.
Chris just wasn't any good.
Take Kanyon, to the general public, who's like right here, and then John Cena, who's right here. And if he, kind of craps on Kanyon, whatever truth there is to whatever he's saying, Cena's gonna basically stomp it out.
The guys from the WWE were in an uproar after your last appearance
Really?
here. Did you know that?
No.
Ric Flair is on the phone. He wants to debate you.
Ric Flair is on the phone?
Kanyon loved Ric Flair.
Canyon's Kanyon, it was Ric Flair.
John made a good point. And I'm disappointed in Chris as a person. I've known him a long time, that he would blame his shortcomings on something that's going on in his personal life.
He started getting into a fight with his childhood hero, Ric Flair.
Rick, we know a lot of guys inside the business that are gay, but they don't want to go national and be nationally out. I did, and I was punished for wanting to do it.
Yeah, I guess it kind of did go well for Kanyon.
He put Ric Flair in a position of having to say, Chris, I love you, buddy. You're a good guy, but you're not the Nature Boy. You're not Stone Cold.
You think he could work for the WWE again?
No, I don't think he could.
Why not?
I think the opportunity for Chris Kanyon is come and gone. And Cena said, yeah, you are not good enough right now to be on the show.
Okay.
All right, well, there it is.
Ric Flair backed what John Cena said, and Kanyon had a huge problem with that.
He really kind of underplayed how much it affected him. I think he just didn't want to admit that wrestling had that kind of power over him.
He was a great professional wrestler. He was a great entertainer. And it was gone.
Last time I saw him was January or February of 2010. And he had been booked to work a show for Mikey Whipwreck's. And the match it was horrible. It's the worst I've ever seen him wrestle in his life. And people started laughing. Once they're laughing at you and not with you, you're gone. Total flat finish. Nobody cared. But we went to the bar afterwards. He was holding court. He was the star. He was making all the self-deprecating gay jokes, and people were laughing with him, not at him. One guy walked up to me, hey, I don't want to bother you guys, but will you just let him know he meant a lot to me and he's inspired me because I'm gay. So we go back to the hotel room and everything's great. And we walk in and he started saying that he was sore, and I asked him what happened, and he said that he'd just thrown himself in front of a car trying to kill himself a couple days earlier.
Damn.
And I started saying, Kanyon, have you lost your fucking mind? Did you just see what we did? Did you see the outpouring of love from these guys? I said, you're being fucking selfish. And he goes, no, Van, you're the one who's being fucking selfish. You don't know what it's like to live in my fucking brain, to feel like a fucking freak, and to fucking hate yourself every day. And I yelled at him a little bit more, and then he goes, Van, I'm gonna stop you right here. And we hugged, and then it was like an episode of This Is Your Life. When he was gonna take me to the airport, we had like 45 minutes to go. And it was like, you remember the time you did this? You remember the time you did that? And we were howling like the good old days. When I got out of the car, I just fucking lost it. And I got on the plane and I cried the whole way home. And I found a little corner seat. I got off and my wife asked me what was wrong. And I said, I think he's gonna do it this time.
That last day I saw him, I literally knew that he wasn't gonna be here much longer.
I started, calling him several times a day, every day for like 2 weeks, and he wouldn't answer the phone at all. Then his friend Mike Passarello called me at, I think it was like 6 a.m. in the morning, and that's never a good time to get a phone call, and he told me he was gone.
On April 2nd, 2010, Chris was found dead in his childhood home in Sunnyside, Queens, New York, having overdosed on antidepressants. His death was ruled a suicide. He was 40 years old.
As you can imagine, we took it how we took it.
And I teared up a little bit, said, motherfucker.
I was like so numb. I didn't know what to do or feel. I was just frozen because it was just, I was just at a loss.
But I also remember being relieved because I remember Chris is now at a place where he wants to be because he can't be in pain. He's not, it's. I'm sorry. He I knew my friend wasn't suffering anymore, and it sucked to lose him, but I just hope that he's not suffering anymore.
I fucking owe everything to the guy, you know? He's horribly missed.
He was one of my best friends. He wanted to reach his arms out and help, you know, me be successful, and I love him, man. I miss him.
It's very rare in wrestling that you get somebody that nobody ever talks bad about. Chris is one of those guys.
I mean, he was a tortured soul. If I understood what was going on, maybe I could have been more assistance or guided him in the right way, but I just didn't know. And I would just tell anybody watching this, if you know anybody who's bipolar, schizophrenic, anything like that, to where their mental health issues are interfering with their day-to-day existence, do what you have to do. Fuck any secrets you have. Go out there and get them help and save them.
He definitely opened the door, though.
Yes, in the wrestling industry.
For others to be more comfortable with coming out. And he was one of the first that I could remember.
He's a pioneer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, he'd be a hero right now. He'd really be a hero. I think that was too much for, cross
If I can get Warrior,
really do.
that'll be pretty cool.
I mean,
Warrior
now
can
we've got,
feud
out
with
gay
Shamrock.
wrestlers, trans. I mean, it's a different world.
Chris Kanyon inspired and helped an entire generation of younger guys. They showed their appreciation for what he did, for his legacy, by incorporating his moves into their matches.
If we can't find Kanyon a friend here.
He was just so underutilized and so underappreciated. So the fact that we could bring more light to his name and people could really understand and see how great of a guy he was,
people
and how
want to be
great in the
Kanyon's
ring
friend.
he was, it's better late than never.
I remember on one road trip in particular, Chris is like, you guys don't realize what I would do to go back and be your age.
Oh, that's
trying
right.
to break in wrestling and make it again right now. And it didn't make any sense to me. What are you talking about? You've done it all. You were on WCW Nitro. You've been a champion in WWE.
You have your own action figures. You've been on video
You've
games.
done it all, Chris. And I didn't understand, like, why would he want to trade spots with me? I would do anything. I would give up anything to be him. Guys, listen, he's like, the journey there is so much better than the destination. And I'm like, I didn't get it. And now I've made it to the destination, and he's right. Like, you're chasing this thing, and when you finally get to the thing, it doesn't really make you feel any better or happier. You have to be happy the entire time.
That last night I saw him, I'd asked him, I've told some of these stories about the crazy shit you did, but you didn't have the gay subtext to explain some of the behavior. And I said, do you really want me to tell these stories? He goes, shoot, Papa, shoot. Tell the truth, Papa. If you pulled out a Ouija board and I got the chance to talk to him one more time, I would just say, Kanyon, you've been an amazing friend. I guess I'd just hug his ghost. Oops. He'd go, motherfucker, you missed.
Nice. That is the end of the episode for Kanyon there. Not a storybook ending, you could say, but the truth nonetheless. Shoot, Papa, shoot. Yeah, it's weird. A lot of these episodes, it's like I'm eulogizing the guy at the end, but the truth is, at least in our game here, Chris Kanyon is young. He has his whole life ahead of him. He's going to have a good run in our company. I think we're going to give him a good gimmick. We don't have any prejudices against him. I think with him teaming with Abyss, we're going to see how that goes. see if him and Abyss, I might actually just make it the Sinister Seven. I actually wasn't aware how I had seen the episode before, so I've come to terms with it. But originally, I wasn't aware of how instrumental James Mitchell is or was in the more Kanyon in the introduction of James Mitchell than the other way around. Even though James Mitchell debuts first in the game here, but yeah, I didn't know how well related the two were. I do think it might be worth my while to excuse me, go and see what we can do with Chris Kanyon in the Sinister Six, maybe Sinister Seven. Um, I do think I will make some more videos on this side. I mean, the reason that we even, speaking of Chris Kanyon being so young and with everything ahead of him, the reason that we even did another time travel episode is because, well, one, we're running out of episodes to do, but two, just the entirety of the, Chris Kanyon, he's not even debuted uh, until 92. It's late 92. Let's see. So, he's not in the game world for my other game, so we had to do it in the time jump April 92. So not late, but yeah. Had to do it in the time jump, had to do it in the time warp machine here. We jumped into our TARDIS before we started this, but yeah. Um, I think we'll probably just book this match for Kanyon to win. Or actually, I think I'm going to have Abyss get the pin, technically. But yeah, and then we'll see, we'll check in on Kanyon another time. So I still have, I think it's, I'd have to look through my notes doc here, but I believe it's Brutus Beefcake and John Tenta. Those are the two left before we go back to season one, Dark Side, and finish the story Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. We're gonna do a major kind of conclusion that features some kind of unification match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels in the Smoky Mountain database, the number one company in 1990. So, obviously we're moving along a lot faster with this company. We're actually in 95 now. But yeah, we only run two events a freaking year, or not a year, two events a month. So that's not too low, but it's more than, or less than 5 events a month, which is what happens in the other game. So yeah, we are definitely coming right along here and moving towards that finale. I do think that will be like the unofficial finale of the Dark Side series. Um, I might do like a special kind of post Dark Side wrap up where we might do like the steroid trial episode and watch that and maybe like drug test all the guys as part of it. So I've thought about a couple ideas, but once this series kind of concludes, kind of wraps up, there's just some other games I've been wanting to play, but I mean I'll always be playing TW to some extent, so I'll probably be doing more just straight up TW vids where I'm just talking the whole time. This Dark Side thing has been cool. I definitely appreciate Vice for being so generous with their copywritten material. Doesn't seem like they care if people react to it or use it as part of their content as long as they're adding a little along the way. And it's really helped me with like developing you know, um, a way to talk to you guys and feeling comfortable and, you know, uh, kind of describing how I book in my head here and there, mostly just centered around the Dark Side guys or whatever major storylines we got going on. But maybe I'll be doing a little bit more of that with kind of each match and like what I picture the finish to be and like how everything's going in my head canon. I think that'd be fun. Maybe not once a week, but at least once a month or something that we would, I'm gonna keep playing CW for sure. Um, but yeah, a few episodes left in this series, and I appreciate everyone who's watching, everybody who's streaming along with us, or following the channel, or going on YouTube and watching the VODs there. Um, Thank you for liking and watching and subscribing and all those fun things. Peace.